We made it to Friday. Good morning, Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning here for the Center Square and Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, editor of the Center Square at Illinois. You can watch us live, join the live chat, which fills up with all kinds of interesting comments. And sometimes people are listening while they're working. Want to give a shout out to those who do. My buddy Gabe, making sure that I know he's got a crew of people that he works with regularly that are listening. So shout out to Gabe and Doogie and the whole crew out there. Thanks for tuning in. Obviously, this is a place where you can get daily news about what's going on with your state capital here in the land of Lincoln. But I want you to get to the website, thecentersquare.com, where you can sign up for the newsletter. It's a daily thing, gets into your inbox, and you can get headlines not just from Illinois, but from across the country, including stuff dealing with Washington, D.C. to Washington State and everything in between. So get those headlines at thecentersquare.com. But you can also go to the Illinois page where you can sign up for the newsletter as well and get the latest headlines there. Plenty of stuff to stay up on, especially with your tax dollars involved, including another push for more quantum in Chicago and what the possible impacts are going to be and a whole bunch more. So find all those headlines at thecentersquare.com. Friday today, we've got, of course, a couple of things we're going to tackle. One, we're going to talk about the end of cash bail, which marked its 2-year mark yesterday. So there were, the people who are for the end of cash bail out with statements, and then Republicans held a news conference talking about how they feel it needs to be revised. And you've got the looming possibility that Illinois could miss out on federal tax dollars from a Trump executive order. So we'll touch on that. But next, we've got to get to the picture that Governor J.B. Pritzker's office shared of what now is known to be a suspect in a deadly smash and grab in Chicago last week. So we'll tackle that. But before we get to the two segments, I want to recognize that Monday, September 22nd, is the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals oral argument in the case challenging Illinois' gun and magazine ban. We're expecting to hear arguments on both sides, including on the plaintiff's side, suing the states, with the Department of Justice going to have some oral arguments. And we believe Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon's going to be given 5 minutes to state why they feel the state's Protect Illinois Communities Act, PICA, the gun ban, the magazine ban, the gun registry, why that's unconstitutional. So we're going to hear those arguments Monday in the afternoon, and we'll review those oral arguments Tuesday morning here with Illinois in Focus Daily. But Monday, I'm going to share with you some of those arguments on both sides, and what several gun owners say is they want to see the courts smash the law like a bug. So we'll share with you some more of that on Monday morning here with Illinois in Focus Daily. So I just wanted to preview a little bit of that as we prepare for those oral arguments. All right, it is Illinois in Focus Daily. Again, go to the website, thecentersquare.com, get the newsletter, get the podcast where you get podcasts, or just wake up with us here for Illinois in Focus Daily with the Center Square. Pritzker's office extremely troubled by a photo with a suspect peacekeeper. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Find that headline at thecentersquare.com, where you can read about this photo that the governor's office shared on September 5th. Of the governor standing next to an individual wearing a peacekeeper's uniform. What exactly are peacekeepers? Well, it's a program that gets tax dollars to intervene in violence. And what they do is they get these grants, they take to the streets, they talk to young kids, they get, them direction, and then they try to steer them away from violence. There's several groups out there, peacekeepers, violence interrupters. It's part of this community violence intervention program. Again, federal tax dollars used to go to that. The Trump administration trying to freeze those funds, but state tax dollars have been going to that to the tune of like $300 million plus to these community violence interruption groups. This is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning here with the Center Square. All right, so let's jump right into this story. Again, this photo making the rounds, and CWB Chicago reporting that Kellen McMiller is a suspect in last week's deadly smash and grab burglary on Chicago's Magnificent Mile and faces murder charges. Before the crime, McMiller was pictured with Governor J.B. Pritzker at an event promoting so-called peacekeepers, groups paid by tax dollars to help intervene in crime. Now, I reached out to the governor's office for comment, and they said that they are extremely troubled. They say that the governor meets with hundreds of people every week, and often he takes photos. They say they're extremely troubled to learn the individual is arrested for his alleged involvement in a serious crime, and we expect them to be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Pritzker's office said the governor will continue to work at fighting crime, and doing so with these peacekeeper programs. It says that has a strong track record reducing violent crime by 41%, and he shared some link to a research article. Not everybody's on board with this. Former police chief for Riverside, Thomas Weitzel, he talked to Jim Talamonte about a different story of different peacekeepers being involved in violent crimes. Again, these are people who are meant to have tax dollars so that they go and intervene in crime, but they apparently, and we've seen this in the past, not just in the past couple of weeks, but even in previous iterations of this, these types of stories of individuals who are paid tax dollars to go and intervene in crime, and then they themselves are suspects in criminal activity. Weitzel says it's clear that this program is not working as intended.
When you see these individuals being arrested by CPD, and specifically, and they're also participating in violent crimes, I mean, what does that say?
Weitzel went on to talk about how this, idea that they're getting paid to go intervene in crime while committing crimes, it's a horrible outcome.
How about actually committing crimes while they're working? Or profiting from tax dollars? Because let's face it, it's a jobs creation program. That's what this is.
So you've got the critics out there saying these community violence interruption grant dollars are a waste, and they could go towards more police officers, more resources for law enforcement, and the like. I connected with Democratic State Representative LaShawn Ford yesterday to get his take on the issue of these peacekeepers, and is the program worth it? Does it actually work?
Well, I think the violence interruption grants, the peacekeeper grants, have proven to work, not just in Chicago, but across the country, because what you find is it's a more holistic and collaborative approach. And so we know that even though crime is still in existence, it probably always will be, I mean, numbers show that the work that's being done by the peacekeepers, it's working. And so the answer to that is it's a good investment. Could it be improved? I think it can, but I don't think that it should be ended. And I don't think that we should be looking to spend less. We should fine tune the efforts and make sure that we spend the money in the areas where we know violence is high.
And you've got LaShawn Ford being in an area, west side of Chicago, where they've got concerns about public safety, and they want to make sure that violence is stopped, obviously. But what about these stories of a suspect pictured with Governor J.B. Pritzker? Pull that picture up again. And what's interesting here is this is, reportedly committing Chicago crimes, Pritzker's calling for more funding. But this picture that ultimately was shared around, again, you can find this at thecentersquare.com. I went into my email archives to actually find the picture because the picture on the official press release posted online is no longer there. So this is from September 5th, and this is the online version, not the version that I got via email back on September 5th. So, picture of the governor talking about, a variety of things. He's meeting with community members. He's, speaking in front of others who are, looking at violence interruption.
We have one of the...
you've got, more pictures. And so, good array of pictures. But when I look at the actual email that I got from the governor, I printed a PDF of this morning. This is the email. And it does indeed have the picture that was taken off of what is now posted online. So you've got the picture there of the governor with this individual who's a suspect in that Mag Mile smash and grab that turned deadly. Interesting just to note that the picture was indeed taken down. But how the governor's office reacted, obviously, is they were extremely troubled that this individual was pictured with the governor, only later to allegedly be involved in a violent crime. LaShawn Ford says, yes, some things need to be retooled with the Peacekeepers program and maybe some more checks on and verification of who is getting these dollars.
We have one of the priorities and one of our responsibilities as legislators is to appropriate funds and to hold those that are receiving grants accountable. So we have to hold grantees accountable for taxpayer dollars, and we have to make sure that the people that are getting them are qualified and have a strategy that is proven to work. And now, should people that have previous convictions that have been reformed be allowed to participate in peacekeeper initiatives? I think that that's something that has proven to work here on the west side of Chicago, where we have people that have been in prison, served their time, have been reformed, and now they're out preaching to the young people that what they did didn't work for them, and they could definitely prove to them that if they continue to break the law, continue to be on the wrong side of the law, that they will too find themselves throwing away years and years of their life. So many times you have politicians and parents that try to talk to the juveniles and those that are delinquent, but we can't connect with them the way people that are actually in that space. And so I don't shut the door on people that have had transgressions in the past, but I say that we have to be very selective.
LaShawn Ford, state representative. He's actually also running for Congress in Chicago. We'll likely be talking with him more throughout the election as he gears up to head to Washington, D.C., but always somebody who's very approachable and willing to go on record and answer these types of questions. So appreciate his time. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. We'll be watching what happens with the Peacekeepers program. Again, find the headline and the picture at thecentersquare.com. Pritzker's office extremely troubled by photo with suspect peacekeeper. And you can get that photo in full res. It's a photo you paid for. All right, it's Illinois in Focus Daily, each and every weekday morning here with the Center Square.
I want to highlight some recent comments from Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson that I think unfortunately represent the attitude of some Illinois elected officials regarding crime and law enforcement. The mayor said, and I quote,
Jails and incarceration and law enforcement is a sickness that has not led to safe communities.
That is the exact wrong attitude. That is the kind of attitude that we must change in this state if we wish to restore public safety and law and order.
Yesterday marked 2 years of no cash bail in the state of Illinois. Good morning, it's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning here as we bring you the latest headlines, but you can get those headlines in your inbox each and every weekday morning. Just go to thecentersquare.com and sign up for that newsletter. You'll find it there, the Illinois page, every page. You can also donate, but we're talking now about this headline from Jim Talamonte. Lawmakers call for changes to cashless bail as Illinois faces federal funding loss. All right, so go read that story, but we're talking about it now here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, editor of The Center Square. Again, headlines at thecentersquare.com. Last month, President Donald Trump made an issue of Illinois and other jurisdictions that don't have cash bail, signing an executive order that spells out they're going to try to withhold funding from states like Illinois that ended cash bail. Here's the president in the Oval Office with one of his secretaries.
What this executive order does, it charges your attorney general with identifying jurisdictions all over the country that have cashless bail policies, and then it withholds or revokes federal funds and grants that are flowing to those jurisdictions to ensure that we're only supporting the people who have reasonable common sense policies around crime.
So what area does it cover?
Potentially anywhere that has a cashless bail policy. So some of the largest cities, some of the most left-wing states in America
Almost
have adopted.
all of them, right?
Illinois would be a great example of that, sir.
Oh, they have a great cashless bail. You don't even have to go to court sometimes. No, Illinois, I love that state. It's a great state. But it's run so badly by Pritzker. They threw him out of the family business, and he becomes governor.
Again, this was last month when the president signed that executive order, and it gave 30 days for the Department of Justice to compile a list of all the areas that have no cash bail, and then from there, we're coming up on that 30-day mark here pretty soon. From there, the federal agencies are going to determine what kinds of cash money, tax dollars from the federal government will be withheld from the state of Illinois, and is that going to change the policies in the state of Illinois to reverse the end of cash bail? It's an important question that Republicans have been talking about for quite some time. And let's get into the background of the end of cash bail. I remember this clearly. It was January of 2021. It was the lame duck session for that General Assembly. They were done after date certain early January. And it was during COVID-19 where the House was not at the Illinois State House. They were at a convention center in Springfield to socially distance. So in the wee hours of the morning, this measure, the Safety Act, passes, and it's a comprehensive criminal justice reform and police regulation measure. It included the Pretrial Fairness Act, which took away money bond. And this essentially was an argument saying, hey, there are people getting charged with low-level offenses that their lives are ruined because they can't afford to bail themselves out so they can get back to work and be with their families and deal with their health care. So we need to make the system more fair. Rich people shouldn't be able to bail themselves out while poor people languish in jail. And also, they argue you're innocent until proven guilty. So you should be free pending trial until you can, they prove your guilt in court. You don't have to prove your innocence. They have to prove your guilt. So you've got that element as well with the supporters of the end of cash bail. But when it passed in January of 2021, there was a ramp up to, implement it. But the state's attorneys from across the state sued the state of Illinois and kept the law from being enacted for, almost 2 years because it finally was allowed to be enacted by the Illinois Supreme Court in September of 2023. Here we are now, 2 years later, and we've got no cash bail that's been in effect for those 2 full years. The impacts, Republicans say, has been staggering. State Representative Dennis Tipsord, he is also a police officer, part of several Republicans talking about the end of cash bail yesterday. He said that this is taxing police officers incredibly.
This legislation has left judges powerless, with no choice but to set dangerous criminals free with either lax conditions or unenforceable restrictions. The challenges to law enforcement, they are numerous, to say the least. Defendants set free on pretrial release continue to commit additional crimes while awaiting trial. Defendants set free on pretrial release are increasingly failing to appear in court, further bogging down the justice system and putting public safety at further risk. The increasing number of failures to appear in court are costing taxpayers thousands of dollars, along with taking officers off the street. In some cases, we have to travel an entire day one way just to pick up an FTA offender and bring them back to Woodford County to set a new court date, and once again, set them free. This issue is staggering, and the public would be outraged if they knew just how bad this problem is and how much money it is costing.
And the issue of money, not just for police resources, having to go and find people who fail to appear, ultimately pick them up and then process them back through the jail and they're let back out, or just the mere fact of the toll it takes on police morale when you see that type of thing happening. But there's also the other cost, because if there's no more cash bail, what happens to that money that people were paying to bail themselves out of jail? Those are dollars that the system used. Patrick Windhorst, David Freese, two state representatives joining this news conference with Republicans yesterday on the 2 years of no cash bail, saying that they need changes. They say it's costing local jurisdictions quite a bit.
So we have seen, from what I've heard, a reduction in the collections from counties and the amount of money they've received because instead of having bond go toward that amount, individuals are paying after the case is concluded. As for the cost to law enforcement, there have also anecdotally heard that there have been increases for prosecutors' offices and their workload and what they've been expected to do, as well as increases for the appellate public defender and the appellate prosecutor on handling the appeals that have come forward. So I believe once a study is done, we'll have a better idea that there were increased costs to the taxpayers in our local governments, but I've not seen a study yet myself.
Yeah, I haven't seen a study yet either, but I have talked to the clerks in my district, and the funding of the clerk's office is a big concern. And I know last session there were numerous clerks running around Springfield advocating for additional funds for, just like what Patrick pointed out, is the no cash bail has really hurt them financially, and there's going to have to be some additional funding for that if this is going to keep up.
So this is obviously something that is going to possibly evolve. Not really sure there's going to be any move to change this, even if the federal government withholds federal tax funds from the state of Illinois because it still has no cash bail. Is that something that's going to be ultimately changing what the state law is? Republicans aren't hopeful that's going to happen, but State Representative Patrick Windhorst says he's got a measure he wants to see passed. If we're going to keep ending cash bail, then there needs to be some changes.
I have filed legislation, HB 1482, which includes an expansion of the detainable offenses. The legislation says that a court may detain a defendant pending trial if the defendant is charged with any felony offense, and it is alleged that the defendant's pretrial release poses a threat to the safety of any person or the community. The legislation also changes the burden of proof at the accused detention hearing from clear and convincing evidence to preponderance of the evidence. We strongly oppose the elimination of cash bail and propose legislation to return to that system. Given the current makeup of the General Assembly, it is unlikely that cash bail will return soon. In the meantime, it is important that we protect public safety and do justice in individual cases. Defendants who are arrested and charged with any felony should be eligible to be held in detention pending the start of their trial. We're seeing people charged with serious offenses walk free and pay no cash bail. We think that is extremely problematic.
We can go through all of the examples, but it's kind of gut-wrenching for this early in the morning. You've got Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle sharing comments about the 2-year anniversary, and also some of the quote, attempts to undermine reform, she said. 2 years ago, Illinois was the first state to end the use of money bond as a condition of pretrial release, and we are the only state to have ended money bond completely. With the Pretrial Fairness Act, we replaced a flawed and unjust system with a thoughtfully designed pretrial system that is more fair, safe, and effective. You also have the Network for Pretrial Justice posting this to the Coalition to End Money Bond, celebrating 2 years of pretrial fairness, and they go through and talk about how yesterday marked that second anniversary of the successful implementation of the Pretrial Fairness Act.
The National Conference
they go on to talk about, throughout the last 2 years, the network has supported successful implementation across the state while working with allies to transform Illinois' pretrial system. Last year, the network worked with legislators to secure funding. Now, Illinois will continue improving pretrial outcomes by creating a statewide Office of Public Defense and expand office access to voluntary mental health care, substance use treatment, case management services, and more for people awaiting trial. So you've also got them sounding off at a time when the president's threatening to take steps to force Illinois to return to the money bond system. It's important that we remember why we enacted the Pretrial Fairness Act in the first place. Prior to the law taking effect, more than 250,000 people were booked into county jails every year, and more than 75% of those were incarcerated pretrial, meaning they hadn't been convicted of a crime, were legally innocent, and were still awaiting trial. The vast majority of people locked up in our state's county jails were incarcerated simply because they couldn't afford to pay money bond. So it goes on from there, talking about, the supporters of ending money bond. But during yesterday's news conference, Patrick Windhorst, as you saw in the tease clip for this segment, he highlighted comments that Brandon Johnson made. And he gave just a partial comment, but here's a couple of days ago, Brandon Johnson talking about a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. about militarization.
the National Conference on New Politics. What did he say? He said militarism is a sickness. I am trying to eradicate the sickness from this city and from this country.
But people
To offer, no, listen, Mark, I get to answer my question now. You've asked it.
But people,
No, Mark, I've answered my questions. Of course they are, but you're not going to be able to avoid that if we don't do the things that actually work. We are not split on this issue. The fact of the matter is, no one has asked me to send federal troops into this city to make it safe. It has never come up. It never came up during the campaign. It's never come up in the first 2 years. The fact of the matter is, we are driving violence down on this city, and we're using every single resource that's available to us. Jails and incarceration and law enforcement is a sickness that has not led to safe communities.
And again, that's Johnson saying that jails and law enforcement are a sickness. And Patrick Windhorst taking an opportunity yesterday during the news conference on the 2-year anniversary of the end of cash bail in Illinois, saying that's not the right mindset that people need to have as leaders to bring about more public safety.
That is the exact wrong attitude. That is the kind of attitude that we must change in this state if we wish to restore public safety and law and order.
Where this goes from here, obviously we'll be watching because we've been asking how much money is Illinois going to miss out on if indeed the Trump administration moves forward with withholding federal tax dollars from the state of Illinois because it still has the end of cash bail. And we'll see that drop soon, I'm sure, as we'll be carrying that for you here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Each and every weekday morning, wake up with us here with The Center Square and get the headlines in your inbox. Go to thecentersquare.com. If you can't catch the show live, you can get the podcast, audio, or you can watch segments of this program and the entirety here on YouTube. Again, it's only with The Center Square. This is Illinois in Focus Daily. That's all I got for you on this Friday. It's been a busy week. Next week's going to be busy too. We've got the oral arguments in the gun ban and magazine ban and the registry components, and the U.S. Department of Justice is going to sound off on that as well. So we'll be bringing you all of that here with Illinois in Focus. So be sure to wake up with us Monday morning for more Illinois in Focus Daily podcast, where you get the podcast. Don't forget, you've got the weekend edition coming up. Jim Talamonte and I talk about these stories and more. You also have got the best of here on YouTube, about an hour's worth of a ton of stuff that we've talked about throughout the past week as we go live each and every weekday morning here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Have a great weekend. Hopefully the heat is over and fall and autumn will be glorious. All right, we'll see you guys Monday. Only with Illinois in Focus Daily.